The hanger sighs when I lift the garment bag, a little wooden exhale that tells me something's wrong before I open it. The bag is light. Wrong light. I pull the zipper and find air where weight should be. No midnight wool, no whisper of polished lapel under my fingers. Just a dry cleaner slip curled in the corner like a leaf and a spare button knotted into the lining where the coat ought to be. The suit isn't a brand name so much as a promise I kept to myself. 2 years of after-hours shifts and Saturdays spent brewing espresso for people who practiced their apologies under cafe music. 52 weeks of no thanks to impulse anything, a spreadsheet with dates and deposits, fittings in the kind of mirror that makes you stand taller. Not black, too flat, but a blue so deep it reads like ink, a hand-stitched pick along the notched lapel, a secret monogram tucked into the inside pocket, my first initial and last name, leaf green thread only I knew to look for. The tailor patted the shoulder when I picked it up and said, "You'll pour yourself into rooms in this." I wore it to 2 interviews and 1 funeral, and a date that became a habit, then a heartbreak. It survived. So did I. 3 hours ago, my brother texted, "Emergency. Mine ripped at the seam at the church. Quick borrow?" By the time I saw it, I was already in the shower, lather in my hair and steam coating the mirror. I typed, "I'll drop by after work," then paused, thumb hovering. Weddings, families, favors wrapped as expectations. "You know how it is," Mom likes to say, which is their code for, "Rules are for outsiders." I dried off, pulled on jeans, and crossed town to our parents' house. To his house now, too, since Liam and Marina moved into the downstairs after their lease ran out, and Dad's nothing goes to waste talk became an extra set of keys. The front door was propped with a shoe. Voices spilled down the hall. Hairspray, laughter, something clanking in a pot on the stove, a blender whirring. I went straight to my old room without calling out, grabbed the bag from the closet where the suit lives between cedar blocks and breathes like it needs the night. On the bed, I brushed the lapel with my knuckles, smoothed the sleeves, checked the hem, slid my hand into the inside pocket. My fingers found paper. Right, receipts. I forget this suit is also a filing cabinet. Dry cleaner receipts, a ring resizing slip for my friend Nora's anniversary surprise last month, and a folded half-sheet titled Wedding Errands with checkboxes I'd made for Liam, because doing is my code for loving. I kept most of the vendor receipts in a folder at home, but we'd run out in a rush last week when Marina asked if I could float the dessert table because the baker doesn't take checks. "I'll pay you back after the honeymoon," she sang, which is their code for after never. I slid the papers back in because I like evidence where I can reach it. At 4:18 p.m., I texted Liam a photo. The hanger hooked over my forearm, the suit a shadow against the wallpaper. "Road in 15. Where should I drop?" He sent a pin. "The church." Marina answered the door with pins in her teeth and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hero," she said, which is her code for, "We waited because we knew you'd come." Liam hugged me hard enough to crease the bag. "You're a lifesaver," he said into my hair, then pulled back to study the bag like it owed him royalty. "I'll have it back tomorrow, promise." "Day after's fine," I said. "Monday at the latest. I've got a thing." "What thing?" he asked, light, as if appointments were suggestions and plans were cute. "Work," I said, and left it there. I didn't stay for the ceremony. I'm not the stand-in. I'm the one they call when Plan A is a story and Plan B is me. I went to my own shift at 5 o'clock, poured 15 lattes, 2 long blacks, and a cappuccino for a woman who said the foam looked like a heart, and asked if that was an omen. By the time I took off my apron, my phone had 4 texts from Mom. "Oh good, you brought it. Don't be late to the reception. Bring extra safety pins? Where are you?" And nothing from Liam. At 10:23 p.m., I scrolled his story. First dance, The strings of lights over the rented barn, him twirling Marina. The caption read, "Dressed by love." My suit looked like it was doing what it was built to do. Hold a life steady. That should have been enough. The morning after, I texted, "Pick up at noon?" An hour later, "Going to brunch? Can I swing by at 3? At 3:04. "We're still at Mom's. Bring it?" At 7:15. "We forgot and we're leaving at dawn for the airport. We'll drop it when we're back." A winking emoji, his code for, "You'll understand because you always do." I could have driven there and retrieved it. But I've been trying to learn the difference between can and should. I've been trying to learn to let other people trace their own consequences with their own pens. At 8:02 p.m., I hung the empty garment bag back in my closet and told myself it was just a suit. It wasn't. Sleep is a rumor. I lie on my back and watch the time blink forward on the cheap alarm clock I bought when I moved out. The one with the red LED that makes every hour look like a warning. My apartment smells like lemon cleaner and leather scraps. I've been making notebook covers on the side, cutting and stitching and smoothing edges with beeswax until they shine. It helps. It gives my hands something to do when my head is loud. At 1:11 a.m., I give up and sit up, pull my laptop closer, and open the spreadsheet that organizes my life when my life won't take the hint. Suit, status, gets its own tab now. Date lent, promised return, follow-ups. My last message sits on delivered, not read. I add a line. Leave formal demand at parents Tuesday if no response by Monday. My shoulders drop when I write it. Not a threat, not a tantrum. Just a line item. My phone buzzes. Nora. "You awake?" I admit I am. And a second later, my screen lights with her face, hair in a bun that's losing the battle, rings glinting as she flips me to speaker. "I can't sleep," she says, "and I baked too many brownies. Want to trade insomnia for sugar?" 20 minutes later, we're at my kitchen island with brownies, ice-cold milk, and the kind of friend who doesn't say "I told you so" because the point isn't the lesson. It's the leaving. Nora used to sew costumes for the community theater, which means she knows more about interfacings and hems than I do. When I list everything the suit means to me, she doesn't laugh. When I describe the empty bag like a missing tooth in a smile, she nods. "We both know this isn't about fabric," she says. "It's about that thing where you vanish into usefulness and call it love." "I left receipts in the inside pocket," I say. "Vendor stuff. I thought I'd need them at the reception." Now I'm worried. "Worried because," she prompts, gentle. "Because those little papers are the only reason our family will believe I paid for half of the rehearsal dinner, and the desserts and the gas in Dad's truck when he forgot his wallet again. I pick at a brownie edge until it crumbles. If he keeps the suit, he keeps the proof." Nora goes quiet. The refrigerator hums like an old friend warming their hands. "Do you still keep that shoebox?" she asks. "In the closet, top shelf, behind the winter boots?" I stand, fetch it, pop the lid. Stacks of receipts and envelopes labeled by month, paper clips keeping like with like, a rainbow of sticky notes marking larger purchases. I keep the big ones digitized, too, but paper is simple. Paper you can hold up to the light. "Okay," she says. "What do we do when a person tries to make your reality look like mood?" "Write it down," I say. "Date, time, who said what happened?" "Good." She sits back. "So we start a file. SUIT. You write a calm, clean letter. You give it to him and your parents on Tuesday. If the suit's not returned by Friday at close of business, you file a police report for theft of property. It's a civil thing," I say. "He'll say I loaned it." Loan is code for return. Keep is code for steal. She takes my pen and writes, "Demand letter, return by Friday, 5 p.m. Then, smaller, "Bring witness." "Who?" "Me," she says. or your neighbor Mr. Becker, or my gleefully righteous aunt who collects case numbers like charms on a bracelet. I laugh for the first time that day. I also left the tailor's tag in the inside pocket. I pull up the tailor's site, type an email quickly. Hi, this is das Shakworth. Suit monogram, disoregram dash. Picked up September 8th. Can you confirm if anyone brought it in since? I hit send and my stomach unclenches a little. Agency is a sedative. It's 10:41 a.m. the next morning when the tailor calls back. Miss Amon? We had your jacket yesterday, she says, voice already apologetic. A woman brought it in. Asked if we could remove the monogram and let the sleeves down by a 1/4 inch. She said there'd been confusion with the initials. Woman? Brunette, mid-20s, acrylic nails, 2 phones. The name on the card was Marina Harris. I hold the phone away and stare at it like maybe reality will prefer a different ending if I don't look directly at it. Marina. Remove the monogram. Erase my name from the inside of my own coat. Did you? My voice comes out thin. We didn't, she says quickly. We told her we wouldn't alter work without the original client's permission. And we took a photo of the tag A-ding, and my inbox blooms with an image of my suit like a missing person in a flyer. Navy wool, neat shoulder, my green thread initials shining like a quiet notary in a crowd. In the shot, someone's hand with fancy nails pinches the lapel. Marina. Thank you, I say, swallowing around the hot in my throat. Could you also send the copy of the work order she filled out? An hour later, the PDF arrives. It has her name, her number, the date. She signed next to monogram removal, no. The tailor wrote the NO like a fence. I add the PDF to the folder and start drafting the letter. Dear Liam, on Saturday, November 2nd, you borrowed my navy suit. Tailor, Ignacio and Sons. Monogram, initials. Dry cleaner tag number 44,719. You promised to return it Sunday, November 3rd, by 3 p.m. As of today, Monday, November 4th, at 11:13 a.m., it has not been returned. This suit was purchased by me on September 8th for $1,140 and is my property. The tailor you visited on November 3rd confirmed that you, or your wife, attempted to alter the monogram. Please return the suit, jacket, trousers, and garment bag to my apartment by Friday, November 8th, 5 p.m. intact. Failure to do so will result in a police report for theft of property. Sincerely, I sign my name, print 2 copies, slide 1 into an envelope for Liam, and 1 for my parents. I breathe. The air goes in and out and does what it is supposed to do. Amazing. At 2:07 p.m., I get a text from Mom. Heard you're making a fuss about a jacket. It's a wedding, dear. Let it go. Which is her code for? Your boundaries are inconvenient. At 2:09, Dad's all caps. It's just clothes. Which is his code for? Everything you bought is ours, if it keeps our comfort cozy. At 2:11, Liam. We're at the airport. Stop harassing us. If you keep this up, I'll block you. Block you is their code for silence me because you don't like the sound. At 3:32, my phone buzzes with an unknown number. This is Parkway Pawn. We have a pair of cufflinks we think might be yours. They're monogrammed with your last name. Guy brought them in with a wedding vest. Said they were gifts, but had the wrong initials. We ran the name and got your number off a business card in the box. The cufflinks were my grandfather's. I wore them with the suit. I keep the box in the inner pocket when I travel with the jacket because sometimes I am not careful in the exact places I should be. Are they silver with a bevel? I ask, and the man describes my history back to me like a paralegal reading a life. Can you hold them? I ask. I'll be there in 10. On the way to the pawn shop, my hands shake so hard on the steering wheel I pull over and breathe in counts of 4. The receipts in the pocket weren't just bakery math. They were proof of the pattern. And someone tried to erase my name and hawk my dead grandfather's cuffs to pay for a brunch that ran long. At the counter, I show the clerk a photo of me at my own graduation, suit bright as a promise and cufflinks catching light. He compares the engraving, my last name in my grandfather's tight block letters, to the card, to my license. "We had to," he says when I sign the form. "He said you were his sister and it was a wedding emergency." He shrugs. People say wild things at the end of the month. "I get it," I say, "because the clerk didn't start the fire and I'm not here to burn the wrong house." I pay the hold fee out of pocket and slide the cufflinks into my palm like they're small animals. That night, I tuck the demand letter and the pawn receipt into a folder labeled Actuals and sleep for 2 hours, and then not at all. On Tuesday at 5:06 p.m., Nora and I walk up my parents' front path. The curtains twitch, Mrs. Kravitz across the street, a permanent fixture, and the porch light flicks on like an interrogation lamp. Dad opens the door with the smile he uses for police, teachers, and anyone with a clipboard. "Afternoon," he says to Nora like she's a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm her handler. "I'm just here to observe," Nora says, calm as a courthouse. "Liam's not here," Mom calls from the kitchen. "He's on his honeymoon." The knife of her voice glints. "I'm delivering this to you as well," I say, handing her the second letter. "Because the suit was taken from your house." Mom flips it like a menu, looks at the first line, then drops it as if the paper is hot. "Your brother needed something nice," she says. "What kind of person cares more about fabric than family?" Which is her code for, "The thing you built is less sacred than the thing I want." "The kind who earns it," I say, "and returns what isn't theirs." Dad's mouth tightens. "You always were dramatic." When we're back on the porch, Nora squeezes my elbow. "You did it clean," she says. "We keep it clean." On Friday at 4:52 p.m., my phone buzzes. "Liam, it's at the cleaners. Pick it up yourself, address attached. Ignacio and Sons, the tailor, not the dry cleaner. He's either an idiot or he thinks I am." At 4:58, I'm in the passenger seat of Nora's car while she parallel parks like a surgeon. Inside, the tailor's assistant looks like she expected us. "We didn't take it," she says as soon as I open my mouth. He came back with a different store, Sunset Cleaners, and a note from his sister authorizing monogram removal. We told him no again and recommended he go back to the owner. "Let me see the note," I say. She pulls it from a drawer under the register. Lined paper, torn from a notebook. My name in his hand, but with the N backward, like a kid faking a hall pass. "I authorize removal of monogram, my name," it says, and my stomach drops. The counsel we give the children in our family about not forging signatures should probably extend to the adults. "Can I make a copy?" I ask. She does, and I add it to Actuals under forgery. At 5:11 p.m., I file the police report. You know your family is taking you seriously when they text 30 minutes before they knock. "We're outside," Dad writes. "Open up." I look through the peephole and watch my father shift his weight, hands on hips, checking his reflection in my apartment building's glass like attitude is a shirt you can tuck in better. Mom stands behind him, sunglasses on like armor, a tote slung across her shoulder, and something in the tote that makes the seam strain. When I don't open the second they expect, Dad pounds with the side of his fist. The hallway magnifies the sound. Mrs. Lee in 3B opens her door a crack and closes it again, fast. Nora steps quietly into the entryway behind me and nods. I dial the non-emergency line and say the words the operator needs to hear. Civil standby, property retrieval. I have a police report on file. Report number. I read it off the top of Actuals without losing my place. The officers who arrive are the kind whose faces make you stop thinking in stereotypes. One young with a kind of bone-deep tired that reads as careful. One older with a scrawl of laugh lines, and the patience of someone whose teenagers think memes are an argument. They ask us to step into the hall. Dad performs for them. My daughter has a bee in her bonnet about a jacket. She's always been like this. And the older officer's mouth twitches like she's seen this play, this role, this monologue, more times than she can count. I hand her the report, the note with my forged name, the tailor's email, the pawn ticket that resembles an affidavit more than a receipt. We have props, we have dates, we have the quiet spine of facts. "Do you have the suit?" the younger officer asks. Dad looks offended, the way he did when a neighbor once parked in his space on the street. "We're here to discuss," he says, which is his code for, "I don't like being told what to do." Mom shifts her tote so the seam strains again, and the older officer says gently, "Ma'am, is the suit in there?" Mom swallows, then reaches in and pulls out the jacket by the shoulders. My jacket, my shoulder line, my initials still intact. I didn't know I'd been holding my breath until it hurt to exhale. "There's also this," she says, and brings out the cufflink box like a rabbit. "I got them back after you made a scene at that pawn shop." "I made a report," I say. "They called me because my name was on them." "You didn't have to do that." She's offended and perplexed all at once. I point to the green thread inside the pocket. The older officer reads the tailor's email again and nods. "Sir," she says to my father, "you need to hand over the jacket and trousers now, and if there is any damage, or if you have altered it in any way, you could be looking at additional charges." "The hem," I say softly. "Check the hem." The younger officer lays the jacket over his arm like it's a living thing and pinches the hem between his fingers. "Looks fine." "I put an extra stitch in the lining," I say. 3 hand stitches in a row near the inside tag. Only I know where I show him a photo in my phone. A little Easter egg I sewed after the tailor joked that in a family like mine, I should sign my work more than once. He finds the stitches. I see it in his face before he nods. "Looks like hers," he says, and Dad's jaw ticks. The trousers come out next, balled like laundry. Officer Tired unfolds them and holds them up. "Smells like smoke," he says. "Bonfire at the reception," Mom says, and I imagine my pants near an open flame, sparks popping like tiny lies. I could reel. I do not. There's a moment, 1, 2, where if I were the version of me they prefer, I'd laugh and say it's fine, let it go, we're good. But I have a list and a spine and 2 officers who showed up because I used my voice. "I'll need the dry cleaning paid for," I say. I look at both officers, then at Dad. "And I'm filing a temporary restraining order. If you come to my door without notice again, if you call my landlord, if you use my name to authorize anything, if you pawn anything else of mine, I will file new charges." "You'd do that to your family?" Dad spits. His voice is low and ugly, and I've heard him use it on waiters and pharmacy clerks and me. "I'm doing this for me," I say. My suit is my suit. My name is my name. My money is not a community project because you're bored. "Watch your tone," he says, and Officer Laughlines steps between us so gently that it feels like a curtain closing. "I think we're done," she says. On the landing, Mrs. Lee opens her door fully and pretends to check her mail. She's watching because she knows the shape of this scene from a different century, different faces, same script. I want her to see me end it clean. When the officers leave, I hang the jacket on the back of a chair and sit with the suit like it's a person who came back from somewhere dangerous. The fabric smells like weddings and smoke, and the cloying sweetness of someone else's cologne. I breathe around the urge to scrub what I can't name. At 7:03 p.m., my phone lights with a text from Liam. "You made Mom cry." "You happy?" which is his code for "you didn't fold." I stare at the message until it burns, then set the phone down screen first and return to the list. Over the next week, the errands are small but precise. Tailor for an inspection, dry cleaner with a note that says, odor, smoke. An appointment with a clinic that runs a free workshop on financial abuse because I want the language for what's been happening for years that I called Thanksgiving tension. I file the restraining order. I send Nora a photo of the suit hanging in my closet. Cedar blocks leaned against it like guards. She sends back a picture of brownies with the caption, Court Victory Cupcakes next. Saturday afternoon, working over a leather notebook cover at my kitchen table, I realize I'm not shaking anymore. A groove appears. The thread pulls through, smooth. The knot cinches and stays. On Sunday, my doorbell rings. I look through the peephole. It's our cousin Mateo, the one who works nights and keeps his grandmother's rosary in the glove compartment like a buckler. He shifts from foot to foot, hands jammed in pockets, the way people stand when they're about to say they're sorry. I open the door a crack, chain still latched. I didn't know, he says before I ask him to prove a thing. They told us you gifted the suit to Liam, and then Aunt Ruth said you went crazy at the pawn shop and I... He stops, exhales. I shouldn't have believed that. I look at his face and around him at the silence of the hallway. I got this for you, he says, and holds up a paper bag from the dry cleaner that isn't ours. Inside is a tie, the one Liam wore to the reception. Navy with a faint green stripe that matches my monogram thread by accident. I found it on the back of a chair at my mom's, he adds. Figured you want the whole thing. Thank you, I say, because what else do you say when someone chooses the truth in front of you and then acts like it? He looks relieved, then embarrassed, then like a kid who thinks he might be allowed to grow up. Can I, He nods at the suit, and I hold it up. He whistles low. That's a nice stitch, he says, touching the lapel where the pick runs like a heartbeat. You look good in it. I do, I say. I smile. And I look like myself. He laughs at that. Kind, not mocking. When he leaves, I lock the door because that's what doors are for. I still keep the double stitch inside the jacket hem where only I can find it. I add another right above it the week after the court date with a kind of private ceremony. Here is where I stopped explaining and started living. The tailor lets me set up at the long table in the back on Wednesdays after hours. Ignacio calls me colleague and tells me stories about wedding seasons he's survived without losing his religion. I hem, I baste. I learn to mark chalk with a hand that doesn't tremble. The small miracle is how fast my body remembers what it feels like to hold posture that isn't apology. In March, I get a new job, the kind with benefits and a boss who reads my emails and answers the questions I asked. On my second day, I wear the suit with the gray shirt and the tie with the faint green stripe, the accidental match. The conference room smells like dry erase markers and new carpet and possibility. At lunch, a coworker says, "You always know who's good at their job by their shoes." And I look down at my polished Oxfords and realize I bought them for me, with money I earned, to do work I like in a place where no one will take them from the hall when I'm not looking. I host a dinner in my one bedroom on a Thursday in May because celebration can be a regular thing. It doesn't require someone else's ceremony. Nora brings bread she baked with rosemary, and Mateo brings a salad with artichokes and 4 stories about his boss, and my neighbor, Mrs. Lee, stops by with dumplings and says, "You have a laugh that makes the hall less lonely." We eat at the table I built with my own hands on a Sunday, sanding until the grain went from splinter to silk, finishing the edges with the beeswax I use on leather because I like my worlds to touch. When Dad calls in June from a number I don't know, I let it go to voicemail and hear him breathe for 15 seconds and then hang up. Later, he texts a single line, "Your mother is sick." I do not reply right away. I call my aunt whose stories have the weight of receipts and say, "Is she?" She sighs. "A cold," she says. "They'll live." The old me would have driven across town with soup and a wallet. The current me sends a link to a grocery delivery and a note that says, "Take care," and leaves it. It's not unkind. It is proportional. In August, Liam and Marina separate. I don't cheer. I don't write it into a happy ending. Money is a cruel teacher, and if you ignore the lesson long enough, it tests you harder. He texts me at midnight. I messed up. I messed up so bad I stare at the screen, feeling old and young at the same time. I type and erase and type and settle on. You did. You also can do better. He doesn't reply. That's okay. Doing better works without an audience. On a Tuesday in September, Taryn, the barista who started after me at the cafe, the one with the shaved head and the softest voice you can barely hear, knocks on my door holding a paper grocery bag. "I'm leaving my boyfriend," she says flatly, and then starts to shake in that way the body does when you stop telling it to be furniture. I make tea. I clear the couch. I pull the spare blanket from the basket. I place a pen and a composition book in front of her and say, "We're going to write down what you know. Who holds the lease? Whose name is on the car? Where you'll go for 2 nights. How you'll get there." We build with details. She takes a deep breath. We begin. The pen scratches. The kettle sings. We call Nora because the chorus is the point. Thanksgiving comes around again, as seasonal obligations do. This time, I cook for 4. Found family plus one cousin who swore off awkward gatherings the day Aunt Ruth called me ungrateful in a group text. We set the table with mismatched plates that look like they were invited to a party anyway. I carve a turkey small enough to fit into my oven and roast carrots with a drizzle of maple syrup and a crush of black pepper. Nora toasts, "To boundaries that stay where you put them," she says, "and to suits that come home." We clink. Mateo snorts. "To suits," he says, and then, steak knife serious, "To the way you can pick your people and still be a person at home." After we eat, I pull the suit from the closet because the night feels like it wants a ritual. I lay it over a chair and run my palm along the lapel, the pick stitching catching just enough light to make it look like breath. I slip my hand into the inside pocket and touch paper. Not a receipt this time, not a theft, not a pawn ticket. A list in my handwriting, titled "Things That Belong." Under it, my time, my voice, my name, my yes, my number, my work, my rest, my money, my quiet, my joy. I wrote it at the clinic that Tuesday when the counselor said, "Make a list and tape it in a place you'll touch," and my tailor brain thought pocket. When the doorbell rings, later, when the plates are stacked and the wine breathes, my chest tightens with old muscle memory. I look through the peephole and see Marina, hair down, no pins, no armor. She shifts her weight, holds up a folded piece of paper. I don't open the door all the way, for me, for history, but I open it enough to hear her. "I wanted to return this," she says. "We found it in a box in the closet when I was packing. It's your monogram card from the tailor." "I'm sorry." The paper has the green thread threaded through 2 holes like a sample you can pocket, my initials stitched tight and clean. Ignacio used to slip them into jackets like a secret between maker and wearer. I take it. It's mine. I nod. "Thank you," I say. "I shouldn't have..." She stops. Tries again. "I thought if we made it ours, it would fix..." She gestures, helpless. I was wrong. Her eyes look older than last year. I know that look. It's the face of someone who discovered the argument you use on yourself and lost. "I hope you build something that fits you," I say. It sounds trite. It isn't. She nods again and leaves without asking to come in. A gift. In bed, later, the monogram card on my nightstand looks like proof you could frame. The suit hangs on its wooden hanger from the hook inside my closet. Cedar blocks scent the dark. When I close my eyes, the world is quiet enough to hear the elevator stop at my floor, and the neighbor turn her key, and the clock not at all because I finally bought one that glows without shouting. My brain, for once, does not rehearse the perjury of people I love. It rehearses stitches. A year after the hanger sighed under the weight that wasn't there, I stand in my doorway and watch the person I've made move through a room I paid for. I know who I am when I put on that suit, and I know who I am when I leave it on the hanger and tie my apron to sew for the shop, and then untie it to let people in. Liam texts on a Wednesday in January. I went to my first budgeting class. It's something I send a thumbs up and a link to the workbook that helped me stop naming Chaos Holiday. No lecture, no ledger. I am not anyone's lesson plan but my own. When I step into the suit for a friend's wedding in March, I slide my hands into the pockets and touch paper and laugh. A grocery list. Apples, rosemary, flour, eggs, butter, honey. I go to the kitchen and pin it under a magnet shaped like a lemon and stand there a long time, looking at a life that feels like a garment that finally fits. Out the window, the street glows the way it does when the rain stops, but the asphalt holds on. My phone lights with a final text from my mother. We're having people over Sunday, she writes. If you want to bring something. Which is her code for, if you want to bring yourself and your wallet. I type and erase and type and settle on, I hope it goes well. Then, after a beat, I add, I'm busy. It's not untrue. It's also a new way of saying I'm not the standby. I hang the suit back in the closet, fingers on the stitches inside the hem. They tell a story you can't see from the outside, that monograms aren't just initials, they're claims. That clothes are just fabric until you survive something in them. That receipts belong in pockets until they become a plan. That borrowed is no longer their code for gone, and family no longer their code for free. I shut the closet door. It closes with a sound I've come to love. Not a slam, not a lock, just the click of something, meeting something, and deciding to stay.